Welcome back to the channel, The Real Ish. Alright, in this video right here, if you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about 11 murders that were inspired by some of these horror movies. Man, I read some of them and they're pretty crazy, so let's jump right into this video. Alright, so I was doing some research trying to, figure out what I was going to do for the next video, and I typed this in and I came across a website. Like always, it's called allthat'sinteresting.com. These are real things that happened. These are real murders that took place, alright? So let's get right into it. We're going to jump right into it, alright? Alright, so this one's about Scream. It says it's kind of similar to Drew Barrymore's character. It says Scream. It says it centers on a classmate whose mother was murdered, alright? So it says Mario Padilla, I guess that's how you say it, plans. He is pretty similar to what he does. It says, inspired by Scream, a 17-year-old convinced his 14-year-old cousin, Samuel Ramirez, to help. I think I heard of this before. They went through with it on January 13th, 1998, using 4 knives and a screwdriver to do the deed. Mario stabbed his mother, Gina Castillo, to death while Ramirez held her down. This is a quote. "My son, he's 16 and he stabbed me," his mother said on the phone to 911. "I'm bleeding. Oh, I'm bleeding." It says the Compton Superior Court judge disallowed any mention of the Scream movies at the trial. The teenage killers had admitted to their influence upon being arrested. Preliminary hearings showed that Mario had also targeted a classmate who resembled Drew Barrymore and revealed more shocking details about what they had planned. It says the crime had been developing for years. The teenagers had planned to buy a pair of costumes and electronic voice modulator made famous by the films in order to mask their identities. This is a quote from Mario Padilla. He says, "I have been watching television since the age of 7. It is ironic how people say, do not let your kids watch TV at that age, because it really does affect them. All I would do is fantasize about how to do things I could not do." It said the teens had apparently stolen $150 of gifts. Stolen gifts for Mario's mother's 1-month-old daughter and planned to kill her husband, Pedro, next. It's wow. It says fortunately police arrived before they could, also finding evidence that they had planned on murdering 5 other people. Convicted of first-degree murder and 5 counts of conspiracy to murder, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That is the one about Scream. And he want to blame it on watching TV, but a lot of us watch TV and movies and do not go out and do these type of things. Alright, so the next one is Halloween and the Richard Boyer murders. Alright, so we're familiar with Halloween from 1978. On December 7th, 1982, Richard Delmer Boyer entered the residence of Francis and Eileen Harbitz and stabbed the elderly couple to death. Their bodies were found 5 days later by their son William. Francis was found propped up against a blood-spattered hallway while his wife was lying in a pool of blood with 43 stab wounds between the both of them. Boyer had done yard work for the couple in the past, and their son remembered that he always carried a buck knife on his belt, so suspicion nearly fell on Boyer. A search of the El Monte, California resident's home yielded a knife covered in blood residue, leading to his arrest. He confessed to the killings during his arrest, but the mistrial was declared when it was discovered that his admission had been obtained in violation of his Miranda rights. Retired in 1984, he claimed to have no memory of the murders and blamed Halloween 2 for the crimes he committed. That's crazy. It says that Boyer said that he'd driven to their home to borrow money, but that he had smoked PCP on the way and suffered a violent flashback to Halloween 2 upon arriving. He also claimed to have seen it countless times while inebriated. While a feature film being submitted as evidence at the murder trial was a historic first, the jury ultimately found him, the defense, improbable. He was sentenced to death of 2 counts of first-degree murder. That's insane. to do something and blame it on a movie. You can't be in your right frame of mind to do that anyway. I've seen plenty of movies like this and never wanted to do something like this to harm other people. Alright, next is Mark Branch, the Friday the 13th copycat killer. As a grocery store clerk who rented horror movies in his spare time, Mark Branch seemed like any other teenager in the 1980s. However, the 19-year-old native of Greenfield, Massachusetts was anything but. On October 24th, 1988, he made his first horror film, Fantasies a Reality, by killing an 18-year-old college student while dressed as Jason from Friday the 13th. Sharon Gregory's mutilated body was found in her bathtub by her identical twin Cheryl, while Branch himself was nowhere to be found. After slicing up her abdomen, chest, and head, the mass killer vanished into the night. People reported seeing Branch skulling about the town, but authorities initially had no luck tracking down their prime suspect. However, authorities learned that Gregory had been writing an evaluation of the man for Greenfield Community College psychology class. Sharon Gregory had in her possession a psychological profile of Mark Branch, and that profile was wanted badly by Mark Branch, said Greenfield police. Wow. The town shuttered its horror doors and canceled Halloween events. A video expo, one rental store employee revealed that Branch rented strictly gore, and gorier the better. A search of his home substantiated, yielding 75 horror films, 64 true crime books, 3 knives, hockey masks, and a machete. Wow. So it says he was ultimately found on November 28th dead and from a tree. It was ruled that he unalived himself, but some believe locals. Also, they believe that people like locally took care of him, I guess. That's crazy. Alright, the Port Arthur Massacre and Child's Play 2. Alright, so it says this guy grew up bullied, resentful, socially awkward. He was from Hobart, Australia. Martin Bryant. He had an IQ of 68, learning disabilities, all that. He became obsessed with Child's Play 2. Man, I'm gonna put his picture. You can probably see his picture when I do this video. He looks really crazy. There's a quote says he loved Chucky and used to go on all the time. Says his ex-girlfriend. It comes to life and has to kill this boy so it can be real, and then it just goes around killing all these people. There was a phrase in that movie that he used to say, "Don't F with the Chuck." He used to get excited when he said that. He would think it was really cool. It says after completing his special education curriculum, he worked as a gardener and met a wealthy 59-year-old heiress, Helen Harvey, in 1988. The 20-year-old soon moved in with her, inherited over $470,000 when she died in a car accident that Bryant survived in 1993. His father was found mysteriously drowned with a diving weight belt around his neck, and an inheritance left to Bryant. Martin Bryant was 29 years old when he murdered 35 people on April 28th and 29th of 1996. Known as the Port Arthur Massacre, it was the worst mass killing by a single person in Australian history. He stalked people from cafes, gift shops, to toll booths and gas stations, gunned down with a semi-automatic AR-15, and a self-loading rifle. His victims ranged in the ages of 3 to 72 years old. Man, says by the time he was captured, Bryant killed 35 and injured 23 people. That is insane. I've never heard that before, but probably because, it's from Australia. Alright, gonna keep it going. Jumping right into Nightmare on Elm Street and Daniel Gonzalez. We all know about Nightmare on Elm Street. Alright? Determined to become a famous serial killer. So it already telling you what he wanted to do. Daniel Gonzalez went on a drug-fueled killing spree across London, Hampshire, and Sussex. He dreamt of mutilating both Nightmare's antagonists and Jason from Friday the 13th, as Freddy vs. Jason had hit theaters mere months before the murders. Between September 15th and 17th of 2004, the 24-year-old stabbed 4 elderly people to death and tried to kill 2 others. The disturbed horror movie fan armed himself with large knives and a hockey mask. He murdered 76-year-old Derek Robinson and 68-year-old his 68-year-old wife, Jean. The horror fan also killed 73-year-old Mary Harding in Worthing, Sussex, before butchering 46-year-old Kevin Moley, Peter King, and I don't know how you pronounce this, Kumis Castino, 61 and 59 respectively survived Gonzalez attacks. Gonzalez was diagnosed with schizophrenic after confessing to police that he wanted to know what it would be like to be Freddy Krueger for a day. He said, I watch horror movies all the time, fantasy and not real. He told detectives, I just thought about doing it, man. What would it be like to be Freddy or something like that for one day? That's crazy. Alright, The Exorcist and the mother who murdered her daughter. We all know The Exorcist from 1973. I talked about it on this for so long. The movie's about a girl that has a demon inside her. They, has an exorcism, yada, yada, yada. Alright, so Patricia Ann Frazier, I think this is about her. Said she believed her daughter was possessed. She cut out her heart. Local jurors were left with an utter loss and failed to reach a verdict in her trial. Her daughter was 4 years old and she believed that she was possessed by demons. So she cut out her 4-year-old daughter's heart. She was 34 years old at the time. Patricia Ann Frazier. Her attorney said, I can't think of a more appropriate situation than this for an insanity defense. Wow, that was the real life, almost like the real life Exorcist, Jonathan Cruz and The Purge inspired. We all heard of the Purge. Says armed with a handgun and self-professed leader of a local Bloods gang shot 3 men in the head between May 12th and May 15th, 2016, from Billy Boyd and Jay Higginbottom to Jose Alberto. All of Cruz's victims were chosen at random. Police found Boyd dead out of 2 gunshots of North College Avenue in the early morning of May 12th and found Higginbottom shot several times on North Demi Street. A few hours later, Ruiz's body was found in the driver's seat of a Pontiac on North Lynn Avenue. On the last night of the 4-day killing spree, one of underage girl tipped off police and revealed the cinematic inspiration of the murders. Admitting that Cruz had been her drug dealer, she told detectives that he bragged about shooting a man in the back of the head. She also revealed that Cruz had tried to show her video of one of the murders and brandished a gun, which led to his arrest May 16th. Remarkably, much of the evidence they needed was on Cruz's phone. I purge every night now, one of his text messages read, since I'm dying, someone else has to. Cruz also sent his mother a screenshot of a news article on the murders. He instructed his mother to delete those after you read it. Wow. Alright, so how the Queen of the Damned made Alan Menzies snap. Alright, so if you haven't heard of Queen of the Damned, it stars Aaliyah. It's loosely based on Anne Rice's book, The Vampire Chronicles. Alright, but 22-year-old Alan Menzies of West Scotland, the horror film had already had a deadly impact, I guess, on him. Menzies would claim in court that he had seen the film more than 100 times and had regular hallucinations of Acacia. That is, I believe, Aaliyah's character in the film. The film's vampire queen, as portrayed by the late singer Aaliyah, the character had promised Menzies that he could become an immortal vampire if he murdered someone else as a sacrifice. At the end of the day, I knew I would have to murder somebody anyway, said Menzies. It was the only way you could do it. If you don't murder somebody, you couldn't become a vampire. On December 11, 2002, Menzies got what he believed was his opportunity for immortality when his friend Thomas McKendrick made a disparaging remark that the Queen of the Damned. Menzies claimed to have seen Acacia in his home demanding blood. Menzies said that he snapped and beat his 21-year-old friend over the head 10 times with a hammer. He then stabbed his friend a total of 42 times before drinking his blood and eating part of his skull. He stabbed his friend a total of 42 times before drinking his blood and eating part of his skull, burying the body in a makeshift grave nearby. His crime was discovered weeks later, which led to his arrest. 3 psychiatrists said that he was suffering from a psychopathic disorder. He had to have been, or something else. He let something else in. That is insane. He killed his friend and stabbed him numerous times and ate his skull, drunk his blood. Oh my goodness. Let's keep it moving. We got 3 left. Man, Michael Hernandez, an American Psycho. Michael Hernandez was 14 years old when he murdered his best friend, Jamie. They both attended Southwood Middle School in Palmetto Bay, Florida, with no outward indication of ill Will, prior to the assault, luring his friend into the restroom before class, Hernandez slit his throat and stabbing him over 40 times. He put the knife back in his backpack and calmly went back to class. His friend's body was found within moments while the teacher spotted blood on Hernandez and called the police. Hernandez admitted modeling his crimes after American Psycho from 2000 after being arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Sarah Edmondson and Ben Duras, Natural Born Killers. They modeled their crimes after Natural Born Killers, a movie from 1994, a movie by Quentin Tarantino. Relationship between serial killers and desperation for fame. Armed with a .38 caliber and full tank of gas, this couple, in real life, they went to Muskogee, Oklahoma, and Hernando, Mississippi. The two 18-year-olds had initially left to attend the Grateful Dead concert, but instead ventured out to find their first victim. On March 7th, they did. After shooting businessman William Savage in the head twice, they ripped part of his bloodstained clothes off as a memento. It was now Edmondson's turn to kill, while the couple finding their next victim in Louisiana. Edmondson shot store clerk Patsy Byers. She had failed to kill her, leading to the couple's arrest. Wow. Alright, lastly, we have Jeffrey Dahmer in Exorcist 3. Infamous for committing the world's worst serial killings in Wisconsin's history, Jeffrey Dahmer. We all have heard of him. Unfortunately, he murdered 17 boys and young men. Jeffrey Dahmer obsessively watched The Exorcist 3. Upon his arrest, Dahmer told Detective Dennis Murphy that he had bought a VHS copy of the film and watched it up to 3 times per week, 6 months straight. He felt the character in the movie was driven by evil, and he felt he could relate to the character because he felt he was driven by evil. Murphy told jurors at Dahmer's trial, which spanned from January 1991 to February of 1992. It says that Jeffrey Dahmer had 4 heads and 3 skulls and the remains of 11 people in his fridge when they raided his Milwaukee apartment in July 22nd of 1991. Most terrifying of all is some of Dahmer's victims had watched the movie with him, unaware that they would be murdered, skinned, and dismembered when it was over. Dangerously unaware, 32-year-old Tracy Edwards found Dahmer friendly enough to accept the $100 offer to pose naked. Dahmer would chant and slowly and rocking back and forth. This is insane. I didn't know that he claimed to be whatever after that movie, but yeah, man, this is insane. This is 11 chilling murders that were inspired by horror movies. Some of these I heard about, some I hadn't. So you can't blame movies for your decisions. And a lot of times people open themselves up to demons and spirits, and you have to open yourself up to something else in order to take a life of someone. You know, in order to take someone's life, you're not yourself anymore. You're not you. You can't be who you are supposed to be, because normal sane people don't do that. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. It's crazy. It's very unfortunate and sad that people have to lose their lives in ways like that, you know. But like I said, I don't think you can just sit there and blame it on a movie. It's something wrong with you in general, or you open yourself up to that type of evil. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Like, comment, share this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. I'll be back for another video next week. God bless. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you next time.